let's talk about Twitter. Twitter is a great tool for building an audience, first and foremost because unlike many of the other social networks, it's an open network, right? So that means you can connect with anyone. What you share will be shared with anyone, and it's a great way to meet new folks, attract new members of an audience or community. And it works really well for that. Think about this: Facebook, LinkedIn, while those are really popular networks, the thing that you get with that is those are networks where you're connecting with people that you likely already know. And it's not to say that Facebook or a Facebook page or LinkedIn can't work as well, but really if you were trying to build an audience, then Twitter is a great tool for this. So I wanted to talk about a few things. The first thing, and the topic of this particular segment, will be the type of content that you should be sharing and the balance between the different pieces of content. Now keep in mind that even though Twitter is only 140 characters, it is content, and it's not limited just to text. I mean, you can use images as well. And it is writing, right? So if you're trying to connect with an audience, the way that that's measured is really by one factor, and that is, was it compelling enough to share? And if it was, then that's a good piece of content. Remember, the reason that people share is because it says something about them, not necessarily about you. So what you're trying to do is provide them with either some information, entertainment, inspiration, any of those things that's going to make them want to turn around and actually share the content. But remember, they're going to do that to benefit themselves. So what you're really doing is helping with that. So what I like to say is that there's a mix of a couple different pieces of content, and really that's put into kind of two buckets, right? There's original content, the stuff that you write, and then there's curated content. And there's a lot of rules of thumb on, how much of one or the other you should use, and some people say, oh, it should be 80-20 or 90-10 or whatever. I think that while those can be good guidelines, I tend to think of it as, well, one, it's going to be particular to your audience, and truly, if everything you share is to provide some value to your audience, then there's really not necessarily a rule that's going to apply to that. Because if they're finding it valuable, they're not going to care how much you share or where it comes from. If it's valuable to them, they're going to think very highly of it, and they're not going to get sick of it. But that's going to be individual to each audience. So let's actually turn to, I'll just show you an example of my own Twitter feed, just to show you an example of what I mean between a balance between the two different types of content. Okay, so this is my own Twitter feed, and let me scroll down so you can just see a little bit about the content that I'm sharing. The first thing that you'll notice is at the very top, this is something called a pinned tweet. And that is something that you can stick to the top. You do that through this little menu right here, which will say, okay, embed tweet or pin to profile page. Or for instance, I could do this with another tweet, not this one in particular. But if I had wanted to pin this one, I could say pin to your profile page. And that means anyone who's visiting this will see this at the top. Thought this one was a pretty good one for what I do. So, okay, let's give that one a little bit more attention. But you can see there's a difference here, and this is actually a really good example right from the start, is that this one is an original piece of content that I wrote. It's probably taken from a blog post of mine, but the idea here was to give a quote, show an opinion, and have, maybe that will be something that's useful to someone, and maybe they'll share it. And a couple folks so far have, so that's great. The next one is sort of, this right here is kind of curated, but kind of original. I mean, hey, I was reading this book, liked it a lot, used the hashtag that was preferred by the author, so I'm sort of giving him a little hat tip here, because I thought it was really valuable, and I thought that, hey, other folks could benefit from that too. Here's another that I thought was another example of curated content. This is by Jeff Goins, really smart guy, good article, and something I definitely agree with, so I thought I would share that. A couple shout outs via folks who were sending retweets, excellent. Retweeting, again, this is an example of curated content. A guy who was sharing this thing about image optimization, really useful for folks who are using a blog, and you get the idea here. And then, you can see there's some that are mixed in among curated content. This one's original. This one comes directly from a piece that I wrote about open licenses. So notice it's a quote from the piece, or just something that's a teaser for the piece with a link to that piece here, tagged content strategy so that folks can find it. And again, that you sort of see here's more curated content, and you get the idea. Like I said, there's no hard and fast rule on whether or not that's what I should be sharing and what rate or what the balance is between the two different types of content, but I just want to give you a flavor of how I handle that. My rule of thumb, provide value to the audience, and if you're doing that, they're going to be fine. They're going to appreciate what you do. If you're giving them things that are a shared interest, useful to them, they're going to be happy with you. And if you use that as a rule of thumb, you'll be just fine. Okay, so the next piece I'd like to handle is the etiquette around following and following back.